Hey YouTube, TeamGTheory here, coming at you with I'm gonna call this a deck discussion for Frog Monarch. Frog Monarch's a deck I've been playing for probably about 6 months now. I really like the deck. It's probably my favorite deck that I've ever played, ever. So, I really want to talk about some of the key cards in this deck and what makes the deck function as it does, why it's not performing very well this format, some key cards that I really think are needed in the deck this format. Yeah, let's get started. So the deck's Frog Monarch, obviously, so you're running your Monarchs. The two main ones, Caius and Ryza. The reason this deck performs... This deck has always been about getting outs, to having outs to whatever your opponent has to throw at you. And these cards right here are outs in themselves. They have an out to whatever he does. Caius removes, Ryza sends the card to the top of the deck. Whatever the card is, these cards can normally get over them. Stardust can't negate these. They're just awesome. Thunder King can't stop these. Yeah, so Caius and Ryza, you run 3 of each because they're just such outs, and they're pretty much always live if you have a Treeborn. So this deck, you just throw back in their face whatever they have to get over what you have. So let's say that you got out your Treeborn and you brought out your Caius. You dropped it, and you hit one of their face downs. Next turn, they bring out Stardust and run over your Caius. Okay. Next turn, it's your turn again. You special summon with Treeborn, and then you drop your Ryza. Sends their Stardust back to the extra deck. It's just such an out. It's a great card. So yeah, Monarch's very important. I'm gonna talk about Light and Darkness Dragon. He requires 2 tributes, but he makes your opponent minus like a mother. So he negates any spell or trap monster effect that's activated on the field. He loses 500 attack whenever he negates. He can't negate anymore when he can't pay that cost. So your opponent has to either play around this card, or they can just, activate cards till it is low enough for them to run them over. And even when this card is destroyed, it nukes your field, destroys all cards on your side of the field, and then you special summon 1 monster from your graveyard except Light and Darkness Dragon. So it's pretty ridiculous. It makes your opponent minus so heavily, and if you know how to use the card right, they can't do anything about it. You just start smacking them with a huge 26 beater that negates everything. And even when he's destroyed, you get out something else, some other beater, to screw them over with. Vanity's Fiend, he's very important in this format, I think, especially in this deck, because he stops special summoning, period. He's Thunder King on steroids. And either player can special summon monsters, but if you're the one using the Vanity's Fiend, and you're playing up against, here's a key example, plants, they might not even have an out for this card. It's pretty ridiculous. 24 beater that prevents all special summoning. You start smacking them with it, they can't do anything because they can't go off. So Vanity's Fiend is very important. I'm running 1. I'm probably going to bump it up to 2. Just because he's so freaking... It's a lockdown. He's so good. He's similar to Jinzo, which is another card that I feel it's very important in Frog Monarch because you don't run any traps. Jinzo, if you get him out there and they don't have a response for it, then Jinzo is basically like another lockdown / protection, because if Jinzo's out there, then they can't respond to anything that you're doing with traps, because Jinzo negates all traps. So, okay, let's say you end your turn, they pass it back to you. So, Jinzo's out there, you've pretty much got protection to whatever you think they might have a response for you. Especially on that Treeborn, go off with Caius. You don't have to worry about them responding to it, because Jinzo will negate. Or Jinzo won't negate, they can't activate because of Jinzo. So that's why he's so good, because he just stops everything. So these are the main tribute monsters that I really like about the deck. This deck is made for outs, and I just really wanted to talk about it. So next on the monsters, you've got your Frog Engine, which is a deck thinning engine and a special summoning engine to have you always have a tribute fodder. So Swap Frog is the main frog in the deck, besides Treeborn, which is obviously what the deck's based around. Swap Frog is the frog that when you summon it, it dumps your Treeborn to graveyard. And when you dump that Treeborn to graveyard, that's when the deck starts actually, that's when you get your Treeborn in the graveyard, that's actually when your plays start rolling. You always have something to special summon. It's the biggest key in the deck to having something to do, but it's also the biggest weakness. They can crow it, which is another reason this deck's not performing very well, because another reason they don't have Fishborks and no Synchros. and all that, but I still really like the deck. So, oh, sorry, that's kind of off topic, but Crow, Chain Disappearance, both really hurt Treeborn Frog, and you have to have Treeborn Frog in the graveyard, or else you can't really do anything unless you have a Battle Fader to go to your Gores. But it's a deck thinning engine. It's also having a tribute fodder all the time. So yeah, and then let's talk about the hand traps, because you don't run any like regular traps, so you gotta run hand traps, which are monsters. So Gore is extremely important because he's nearly almost always live, because they're not going to attack you directly. Cause if they do attack you directly, you're not going to have any cards on the field because you don't have any traps. So Gores is always live in that situation. Or Gores is always live. So literally always live. So Gores, when you drop him, he's huge. And he completely reverses the game. He's amazing. Tragodia, you have a lot of the time have hand advantage in this deck. Hand advantage, sorry. In this deck, because you're usually only playing 1 or 2 cards per turn, because Treeborn Frog special summons. So Tragodia is usually at 2400, 3000, 3600 when you drop him. So let's say, like, a lot of the time I'll have both of these in my hand. I'll choose to let them hit me for damage. Drop Tragodia, he'll be 3000. I draw, he'll be 36 huge beater. They can't do anything about it. Smack him with it. Even if they have an out to it, like, he's still a giant beater that they had to do something about. And Battle Fader, you run 3 of, because when they attack, you Battle Fader in their battle phase. Then he's another tribute fodder. So you need these 3 Battle Fader, 2 Trag, 1 Gores. Yeah, those are the main monsters I wanted to talk about, just because this really what makes the deck viable. But this deck's probably about, I would say, tier 2.5 if you're playing it correctly and you know what you're doing and you're running the right cards. Yeah, but I really wish Fishborg didn't get banned, because the deck, the deck could really use some synchro capability just to make it more viable. They just sort of killed it with that. But I still really like Frog Monarch, and I want to talk about the spells in this deck. 2 MST, I really want to talk about this because back row can be a problem for this deck. I'm not going to talk about my staples, Dark Hole, Heavy Storm, Monster Reborn. But 2 MST I think is important in the main deck, because you need to get rid of the back row so they can't respond to what you're doing. So, if they warning your Monarch, then your play is dead for that turn, and you could be really open if you don't have a Battle Fader or a hand trap or something in your hand. So, MSTing their back rows, you really need to do it. So, yeah, that's just, I want to talk about why I'm running 2. 1 creature swap, because it's live. Whenever you special summon your Treeborn, you can special summon in attack mode. Swap for one of their huge monsters, and then start, killing them with it, because you get it permanently. 1 Foolish Burial, Treeborn to Grave. 1 for 1. A lot of Frog Monarch players I see don't actually run this card, because they don't like having to neg just to bring out Treeborn. But Treeborn's more of a plus in this deck, so Treeborn plus is so much for you that I think 1 for 1's needed, because Treeborn's needed in the graveyard for the deck to go off. So I think negging for it's totally worth it, because you have to have Treeborn in the graveyard. So I think 1 for 1's still needed. And then I want to talk about the 2 best spells in the deck. 3 Soul Exchange, 3 Enemy Controller. Soul Exchange is an out in itself. You use their monsters as a tribute, and then you bring out one of your... And you can use one of their monsters as a tribute, then drop one of your Monarchs or one of your other 1 tribute monsters. You can't attack that turn, but that's usually not a problem for you. Like, if they have something huge out there, a Master Hyperion, Christia, let's see, Leviathan Dragon, Zinmanes, this thing is ridiculous. You use their monster as a tribute in place of one of your own, and you drop your Monarch. It's so good. And then, yeah, it's an out in itself, really. And then you've got, in my opinion, the best spell in the deck, Enemy Controller. There's a reason plants are running some of the best cards in this deck. They're running Enemy Controller. They're running Caius. So, you can abuse these cards. Enemy Controller is used in combo with Treeborn Frog to special summon it out, Econ from hand during standby, tribute off your Treeborn, take control of one of their monsters, and then Treeborn special summons back again because it can activate as many times as it wants during the standby. So Enemy Controller is a very, very live card when you have Treeborn and you just take their monsters from them. Yeah, I really wanted to talk about this deck in general just because I really like Frog Monarch. I hope some of you were interested when I was talking about this. Sorry, it's kind of a long video, but I really wanted to talk about this because it's my favorite deck. It's not what I'm running competitively, but, it's just such a fun deck, and I really like it. I really wish it had more support. They didn't ban all the cards that made it good, so I hope some of you are interested. Comment, rate, subscribe. See you guys later.